Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We are very lucky today. We have Kortni Chimko with us as our special guest. And this is really nice for me because she's a really good friend of mine's daughter. So I've actually watched her grow, and that's kind of a nice thing.
And I know Donna too. You have fun with this.
So Kortni is a soul-led entrepreneur who is a CEO of Touch of Serenity, co-founder of Kokoro and Jade, and podcast host of the Soul Haven podcast. She is an esthetician, skin coach, Reiki practitioner, and Oracle angel card reader. Kortni has a huge passion for helping others, and within the last 5 years has really dove into her spiritual and health journey. She is certified in level 1 and 2 Reiki and uses her healing gifts on herself and integrates it into her business. Kortni is the host of the Soul Haven podcast, where she chats openly and honestly about all topics from health, spirituality, business, and more. No topic is off limits. Kortni and her guests use Soul Haven as a safe space with no judgments to share experiences, journeys, and to educate her listeners each week. So welcome, Kortni. It's really nice. We're very grateful that you can be on our podcast.
We really are.
Well, I feel honored that you guys asked me to be as a guest as well. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to be here today and talk about all of the things.
Yes. So I've been listening to your podcast, which I love, by the way. So not everything, is my thing because it's not part of my life, but I love how you always say, listen and share because you never know who might need the information. So, and it's been really interesting. Like I loved the human design one you did. And then this morning I was just listening. I don't necessarily listen to them in order. The Ayurvedic. I never say that word.
Ayurvedic. I know, it's so funny. Yeah. When some people ask me, they're like, Iva. I'm like, no, Ayurvedic.
Yeah. So I love though. I love that you bring all these topics and you have some wonderful guests on here. So
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for listening to it too. It's so much fun too, because so many people are like, put yourself in a box, and I don't believe in ever putting yourself in a box. I'm always like, you know what? I'm just going to go with it. I started it as a passion project and it was on my vision board for so long. And then one day I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it. And it's been a roller coaster. I'm sure, as you know, in the podcast world, you're just kind of figuring it out as you go, but it's so much fun. There's so many amazing guests. And yeah, there's like, it's not every episode's going to relate to someone, but it's going to relate to someone you may know or who may be struggling with something that the topics are. But yeah, thank you for listening. So much fun.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, I like that. And so like you got started out first as an esthetician, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And then I like that I've read too that you do some of your healing, your Reiki work as part of your skincare things that you do for people. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So as well, you guys know my mom. She was very much into the spiritual world for so long. And we used to always say, oh, it's so voodoo. And now here I am, right? Like I'm so into it. And that just goes to show that you need it when it's there when you need it. And so I I was like, whatever. And then I ended up going through a big transition in my life where I just needed something else. I knew that I didn't have the tools and I wasn't equipped with what I needed in order to move forward. And so what happened was I ended up just taking my level Reiki 1, and then I went for my level Reiki 2, and then I really started diving into like human design, Ayurveda, my health, the whole spiritual world. And I realized like we are the best tool for ourselves. We have all of the gifts within us. It's just whether we choose to use them or not. And so being an esthetician, I was like, how can I integrate this with what I'm doing? Because at the end of the day, people are like, oh, I just want to come see you for skin. And I'm like, it's not just your skin. It's everything as a whole. It's internally, your gut health. How is your stress levels? What are you doing as like a daily practice for you to, calm and regulate your nervous system? And so that's when I started slowly integrating level 1 and 2 Reiki, and then Oracle cards, which then I just created the Sacred Love Facial. And it's honestly probably one of my favorite facials, because it's like getting back in tune with your body and just being, because we're in such a fast-paced world that like,
Are we ever?
yeah, we forget to just stop and be grateful for what we have and be grateful for our journey up until this far. So yeah, it's been crazy. I'm still like slowly integrating more and more stuff and becoming more like holistic and tapping into that, because we're also like so exposed to so many endocrine disruptors and so much chemicals and toxins that it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It is really crazy, and
Yes.
it's so true. And you know, it's like my husband, so he needs air freshener. So I said, like, and it's sticky and it sticks to everything because of all the chemicals in it. So I said, just okay, how about I make you some natural stuff? You can try it out and then we'll go from there. So then I asked him the other day, I'm like, so how's that going? He's like, no, I really love it. It's great.
Good.
So it's nice because I know it, and now you get to share it with people, and it's nice when people start becoming receptive to it, right?
It is.
Instead of thinking you're, you know, very woo-woo when you're saying these things, but
Well, and that's the beauty of it too, is that you never know who's watching, you know, like you don't know the impact that you're having on some people who may never tell you that that's the impact that you're doing. But like when you start to be, you know, more who you are and confident in who you are, other people start to see it and it becomes a trickle effect. And it's like, it's not just, and the great thing too is I find that a lot of people are starting to go more into their spiritual selves. Like it's becoming more of a thing. And I think that's great, because before, yeah, it was more woo woo and all this weird. And I was one of those people on the other end. So it's nice that people are more going back into themselves, because I mean, that's how we were like go back to how we were created, grounding yourself. You have all the tools. It's just which tools are best for you.
that's right. And I really think, and I think you do too, just from having listened to you talk about different stuff, is that you have to be truthful to yourself about what works for you, because what works for me might not be the same thing that works for you, or they could align,
It
right?
depends on the day too, I find, because
Mhm.
some days you would do something yesterday and it worked for you, but today you go, no, that's not gonna work today. I need to do it this way. It's like even when you're doing Reiki, you know, am I gonna use crystals today? No, 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 no. You know, it changes by the day, I find, and you work with it as it tells you to.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like you said about when you that's a perfect example of when you're doing Reiki. Some people you might use crystals. Some people, you know, you're working on a different chakra. Like it's not a one size fits all. And
No,
and I don't believe anything ever is.
oh, I agree 100% about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, depends
Yeah.
on the day with me, what I wanna do. You know, it sort of meld with it during the day as you're moving along. I'm like,
That's the beauty of it too.
Right? Yeah, it really is. No, and it's nice too, because I find the more that I sort of am truthful with myself and live in my own soul essence, the more people that I meet
yeah,
that come into my circle that are a part of that, you know, you get these different knowledge from that you can grow and move forward, right? Because yeah, I was the same. I was feeling really stuck for a while, and then I went to my counselor and she's like, okay, well, let's like do some EFT tapping and let's, you know, do right. I'm like, yeah, let's do those things to move me forward.
how
because
nice is
I'm
that, how nice is that the counselor is doing that too, right?
That's yeah, I was gonna say honestly, that's amazing. But isn't it crazy that
Yeah,
those are the things that we forget to use?
yeah,
yeah, it
Like,
really is.
yeah, and it's so simple. You don't need anything. It doesn't really cost anything.
Right?
Do you find, I have a question for you guys actually.
Right.
Do you find that since going into the spiritual, because I believe you guys got into a very like long time ago,
Yeah.
do you find that you kind of go through a rebirth of like your friends, your circle around you? And it's like people always say going through a healing journey, it's all rainbows and sunshines. I think it's the complete opposite. I think it's the hard crap that nobody wants to do, and it's almost like grief. Sometimes it's beautiful on the other side. Do you
Yeah,
guys
it is, because you do lose people, or not lose, but they fall off as they don't kind of align with you anymore, right? And some people, they fall off and you still sort of talk to on the side, but they're not really part of your inner circle anymore. And you're right, like it is a going through a grief thing, because you're like, oh, why? Like, oh, this person was such an important part of my life. Why now are they not? And it's, you know, that your soul's just moving forward. And
I find that too. I find with mine is people move out of my life because I have used what I need from them and and vice versa. And that when I've released them from because I don't need them anymore, their soul can now travel in a different place where they need to go, where my soul is now ascending because I'm looking for the information of where I want to travel with my ascension levels. So I take what I need at that time, thank them, very grateful for what I received. Sometimes not so much on the giving, but at the same time, the soul then embraces that, and then it helps us to move on to where we need to be traveling, because we're not supposed to stay at the bottom. Once we start to work with our spirituality and we realize how rich the soul really is, all we're supposed to do then is move forward and move up.
I love that. I love that. And that is such a beautiful way of putting it. Yeah, sometimes you don't want to thank them. You're like, ugh.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, that's I like that way of putting it. That's a more positive way of sometimes why
Thanks.
with love, that's my new
With love.
thing. I always say that to the granddaughter, right? She'll be doing something, or she'll say, you know, this person, blah blah blah. I'm like, with love. I'm like, why with love? Well, because then you're at least putting that back to them and giving them back love, even though you're sort of like angry or you're frustrated. I mean, and they're human emotions, we have to have those, but we can still send that person love, right? So
yeah, even though sometimes you're just like, oh, with love.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I remember when you girls were young and everybody teased your mom, she was always rainbows and sunshine. And then it's like, now it's so funny to watch you girls, like having seen you as young teenagers, to watch you kind of progress in life and become and embellish some of the things that your mom has always been doing.
Well, I'm gonna take that as a huge compliment because I think my mom's amazing. But yes, yeah, I know before when growing up too, I remember people being like, your mom lives in fairy tale world. And I'm like, I know, she's always happy. She's always looking for the greater good. I'm like, that takes some mental strength in itself. Man.
Right? Yeah, it's just so funny. But yeah, I'm so proud to see you girls excelling in all that you do. So
beautiful women you are.
And you work like Kimberly works with you, right? With you.
So Kelsey was working with me, yeah, part-time. So I'm out. I have my whole basement as a spa right now. I'm in this like I hired a business coach, and so I'm in this massive transformation in my life. I feel like I'm like in a cocoon and I'm just coming to my own. With that, I have been going through it. I have been letting go of like so much that just no longer serves me at this point in my life. But when I get rid of that, I'm making space for the stuff that like truly is aligned with me. It's hard. It's not easy all the time. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to expand and bring a different aspect of the spa world to the world. So I am looking at expanding right now. It's hard. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my goal on my vision board that I keep telling myself is St. Albert, St. Albert, St. Albert. And I've had so many insane signs from the universe. Like, it's been wild. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Follow them.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's so nice when you start getting those signs, right? And it's really funny because I've been a couple of years now putting on my vision board our podcast and things like that, and then I'm like, hey, it's not really taking off, and just then all of a sudden it's like, wow, okay, this is truly what I was meant to do, because it just, we're having fabulous guests like you and all kinds of other people, and it's like, it astounds me, and I'm in awe all the time of the people that when I reach out to them, they're like, yeah, like you can probably relate to that. It's like,
It's crazy. Sometimes I'm like, I have to pinch myself. I'm like, it's real life. Like, and that's so funny too. It's because we always like, when it comes to the vision board, sometimes the way that we have a vision for things doesn't always work out the way that we think it's going to work out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just like, what the heck, that worked out, or we get defeated and then the universe just throws it in your face and you're like, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, this actually is exactly how it needed to be when you look back on it, on things. But like, what a beautiful thing, like people tune in to listen to you. That's what I think. I'm like, people listen to me.
Right?
Why?
Well, I was thinking that the other day. If like 20 years ago, somebody would have said to me, hey, you're going to be live on the computer and talking to people, I'd been like,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
No.
right.
no, I'm not.
What made you start your podcast? Like,
We've been talking about it for a while and we just kept putting it off and putting it off. And then one day we just said, let's just do it. Let's just try it and see what happens, right? And it was that was sort of how it went.
Yeah,
right?
and my son's girlfriend started a podcast. For
That's
me, that
true.
was
That-
it, right? She
yeah, she
started
was
it,
good.
and I was like, hey, I wonder if we could do one as a spiritual thing. So I brought it up to mom, and I'm like, what do you think about this? She's like, yeah, I guess.
Try it.
Like, how do we do it? I'm like, I don't know.
and that's the thing. What's the worst that can happen? You don't do it.
Exactly. Well, and that's what
You
I
need to
always
do it.
feel when I'm reaching out to people, right?
Yeah.
Like when we reach out and I'm like, it's no now. So if they decline, okay, that's all right. There's so many other people out there, and there's so many amazing people with amazing stories and knowledge. I love it. Like,
And if we allow ourselves to believe, that is the whole key, is believing that we have those abilities, that we can do these different things and just meld them into our lives, right? Just make it happen.
And that's
happen.
I love that. Let's magic happen. And it's true because it's like, I've had guests decline for me. And sometimes it's hard not to, spiral and be like, oh, am I not good enough? Ooh, do they not think, do they not believe in me? But I go back to myself and I'm like, my inner self has another conversation with my inner self. And I'm like, stop right there. Like, we don't talk to ourselves like that. Like, that's not it. It's just that conversation is not meant to be shared with the world on your platform right now. That's okay.
that's right. Because it could come back another time when the timing is right. You're more in alignment with them, right?
That's right. Are you not in line with them at all anyway?
Yeah. And maybe that conversation was never supposed to be shared on your platform anyways.
Exactly. And then you have Kokoro and Jade. So you sell things off of there.
Yeah. So I am an entrepreneur at heart. I can look at a piece of dust and think about how I'm going to make money off of it. It's great. I'm a manifesting generator. So my human design. So that's where I'm like so airy and up in the sky sometimes, where I need to come back down to earth. But I one day looked at my husband and I was like, you know what? Like, how do you feel about selling like oracle cards and crystals and all of this? And this was in the middle of the pandemic. And he looked at me and he was like, you think you need something else to do? And I was like, I mean, yeah, like integrate it somehow, because I was trying like big picture thinking. I wanted to offer that stuff in my spa as is. So I was like, how can we do it where we're doing it? It's a separate entity. We're kind of doing it together. And then, we came up with Kokoro and Jade, and that's where we sell like yoga mats. It's everything for your mind, body, and soul as a whole, because we believe that there's a tool for everything. Again, you're the best tool for yourself, but there's things that can help you and assist you in life. And again, we forget those tools, and we've like as simple as a crystal, I carry them in my bra. I half the time they're everywhere. I carry them everywhere. Sometimes they're falling out and sometimes they're just there.
Yeah.
It's like, if that's what makes you, so, it's from Mother Earth. And those are the things that we forget.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Simple grounding or oracle cards. Like those are such a powerful tool that most people don't even know about.
That's right.
Like They're like, what? Oracle cards, angel cards? Like, what? I'm confused. And I'm like, you have a question, or you don't even have a question. You just want to know what the message you need from the universe. Here, draw a card. And then most people are like bawling and they're like, oh my gosh, I need 10 of those decks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my grandson actually said to me one day, the girls were getting me to do their cards. And so he's like, could you do mine, Grandma? I'm like, sure, I'll pull you some cards. So I pulled him a bunch of cards and he's like, I didn't believe, but
I do
wow, the messages. I'm like, right? So it was cool because like, here's this new generation that you're giving these tools to that like, you can do this for yourself.
Yeah. And how amazing, how good did that feel on your end too, right?
No, it always
It
feels
was pretty
good.
awesome.
Always feels good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I agree, because like I do
Yeah, it's good.
my oracle cards every day, and right, and I'm the same as you. I've got half the time I've got crystals in my bra or in my purse or in my car. Or
Yeah. So do you find when you started doing oracle cards, like, did you have any hesitations at all?
I get nervous, to be honest. For myself, I don't get nervous because I just figure I'm going to get the messages that I'm supposed to. But even still, when I do a reading for somebody and use the oracle cards, I still get really nervous because I still don't always trust, right? That channel is open. So
Yeah.
Don't know if it's necessarily trust. I think what it is you're waiting for the message to, when you start, you're waiting for spirit to walk in with you as well. You know, so sometimes we have a tendency to start too quickly before the spirit actually catches up. It's like, don't drive fast and your angels can fly, right? It's sort of the same thing. If you walk into a reading and you wait a minute as the people sit down, you know, and explain this and that, then you're allowing spirit to actually come in and be with you, so that then the nervousness goes away. It's where you're waiting for your antennae to actually receive. That's what I find. And once it does connect, that's when the mouth never stops.
I mean, that is true. And I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Too, because there's been Reiki treatments that I've done too. And I'm like, this message is wild. Like,
Yeah.
should I be? And then you second guess. Yeah. You kind of second guess yourself because you're like, should I? Like, I had one where I did it and it was like a little girl came through and I didn't know that she had a daughter that passed away at a young age. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, and I said to her, I was like, this may be like triggering. I don't know if I'm like out there with it, but like, I need to give the message to you. I don't know. And she was like, oh my gosh, like I had a little girl that passed away at like such a young age. And I was like, see, and then it's like back to me where I'm like, I guess for me too, I kind of feel like it is trusting my intuition as well. Cause it's like, you kind of, sometimes I second guess it too. And I'm like,
but I think too that with
ahead.
spirit, you can't be afraid to say why. Like when I'm doing a reading for somebody, like I have a tendency to swear, and my spirit guides let me swear, or they're making me swear. I don't know either. It doesn't matter. I just find that sometimes they give me some information, and I'll look up as if to say, like, really, you want me to really say that? It's like, I don't think so, because I mean, it's a little strong into the way I would say it. Okay, but spirit is saying to me, no, this is the way that they need to be directed that way. So it may take me a couple of seconds before I can actually come around to saying it not exactly their way. I still have the right to change it my own way. That's what's working with spirit, right? Spirit allows you that interchange with them in order to know if we're running down the right platform, or whatever we want to say. So that's why I question them a lot when I'm doing readings. Like, really, why?
yeah, honestly,
Like, like things like that, and I say it out loud because it's like, whoa, that's strong, and but it tells spirit too that, hey, that's not the way you should be telling me.
Yeah,
There's a nicer way of doing this, right? So, and I really believe that we connect that way. I really do. I think that's a stronghold we have. And so it's not really being afraid, I don't think. It's just waiting for the connection. But they think we're afraid.
Yeah.
Not really.
I mean, it is true. Yeah. And it's
We're good.
do you find, because someone has asked me this question before, and like I always ask it to someone who is into this kind of stuff. do you find that with doing these kind of things that you have your own practice to guard your energy field?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you do it daily, or does it, because people are like, do you do it daily? Do you do it after each client? Do you do it around someone? Like what's your take on that?
Well, I have some things that I do daily for myself.
Mhm.
And then I have things that I would do prior to doing a class, and I've adopted some things from different places that I've been. Like just recently I was at that retreat, and then I got some things from this one lady, and I'm like, yeah, I'm totally bringing that into my practice to create a good space and protection and clear out the junk out of the thing. So yeah, I have both
You do, yeah.
daily and
I trust a lot, so I've been doing this a long time too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I trust that when I walk into something that my spirit guides are going to tell me what I need to do. There's some things that we like to do before we do a podcast. We like to do our smudging. That's just because it's ancestral and our native side, and we like to do that too. But I think that with me, I like to trust that if I'm walking into something, if my hair stands up in my head, that's a really good indication for me. If the hair starts to stand up on my arm, I better go and turn around, do a blessing, and come back into the room. Because something's telling me that it's a little stronger than I anticipated.
yeah.
Right. So that's kind of sort of how I walk into things. Not that I don't ever bless myself before things, because sometimes I do, but on the most times I try to trust.
And what's yours? Do you do it daily? How do you?
So both. Sometimes I fall off the wagon and then I'm like, oh. And then it takes
Oh,
me, I'm
shoot.
like, I'm having 10 baths and I'm like pretty much bathing in essential oils and all of the things. Yeah, I do. Especially after seeing clients, I like the podcast thing, actually, your guys' tip on that. I think I'm gonna try that because that is super powerful, especially when you're having one-on-one conversations. I've never thought about that. But yeah, same thing. I do like the sage, and after every client, if it's like a client that is like a little draining, yeah, I'm like all over the house and all over myself. And then like at the doorway, each doorway, I have crystals above each doorway too, just because it is in my house and I have so many different people coming in and out that I'm just like, holy, like
That's a lot of different energy to
You
be
bet.
bringing in, right? To not be cleansing that when they're gone, because otherwise you're keeping that energy from them on whatever they've released.
and that's what they're usually doing when they're coming to me, right? Like I call myself a cheap psychologist. So it's like,
That's a good way to say it. It is.
yeah. So it's not just like everything's amazing for the most part. I'm there to like listen. So it's like usually a dump, which I'm grateful that I am that safe space for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have to sage after every single client because it's a lot.
It is a lot. Like, and I don't think a lot of people realize how much energy it does take to give those messages and to be in that space with somebody where you're sharing, and it's very intimate and vulnerable in so many ways. And what's coming out from them and is also coming out from you in that exchange. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I agree with that. Like, for instance, the sacred love facial that I do, it's very much like there's oracle cards. I do a mini Reiki treatment on you. You get like a skin service, but crystal layout, and it's like there's no talking. There's a lot of emotions that are released. I still have not had one person leave without like fully bawling their eyes out. I've had girls scream, and I'm like, feel every emotion because you have to honor them all. They're all there, whether they're stagnant within you or whatever. Like, this is a safe space, get it out. And after those, like I can only do 3 of those in a day max because I'm just like,
Right.
I'm drained.
Yeah,
It's,
you're there.
I don't think people like you said, people don't realize how draining tapping into someone's energy it really is. And being sometimes around people, that's why they say like there's energy vampires out there.
Oh, they sure are. What I do before I do my readings is I sage, and
Mhm.
I tell the person I'm doing the reading for, I ask them permission, number one. but I also do a sage around them, because I always tell them, I don't want your spirit guides to stay here with me. I want them to go home with you.
Yeah.
So I'm already putting it out there with the spirit guides. Okay, are you listening to me? Because even if I haven't said that openly to them, I'm thinking it already. Anything that comes out of this today needs to go home with them too. They're not invited to stay here. And so I trust that. And then occasionally something might have a little jingle that stick around a little bit. And when I do, I catch it and then I dissipate it as soon as I possibly can. But like I said, I've been doing this like I'm 71. So for a little bit. But so I've learned how to trust really easy. But I do that every time I have a session.
I like that. I do like that. What do you guys think of cords cutting?
I
Because
love it.
so I listened
I
to a
love it.
podcast actually, and I'll send it to you guys to listen to it. And it was my psychologist actually referred me to listen to this about cord cutting. And it was a completely different perspective that I got on it, because I totally believe in cord cutting. But what's your guys' take on it?
Go for it.
Well, I believe in it. Sometimes, like, especially when I first learned about cord cutting, and I don't know if you were this way, but I was like, ooh, cut the cord. I don't want to cut a cord from that person. I want that person in my life. And I didn't realize it was more of an energy thing than a, now you're not going to be in my life.
Yeah.
But I like it because I think we often just form these cords with people that we are not even aware of.
We are. That's true.
And you know, we're so energetically attached to everybody in the collective that I really think, yeah, I just think it's a good thing to do. And I am lazy about that one. I forget about that one.
We're all lazy about some of this stuff, I think, you know.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
easy, you know.
Because I love the cord cutting too. And same thing, I struggled with that at the beginning too. I was like for instance, with my dad, I was like, oh, I need to cut this cord. But I was like, oh, I don't want him to leave my life. I'm confused. And then they're like, no, it's just the energetic, you know, that energy that you no longer want towards you you need to cut that. But then I was listening to the podcast the other day about it, and she said, yes, cord cutting is a great tool to have. However, sometimes if it's like, this is just an example, if it's someone who's like really draining and an energy vampire that you no longer want to have in your life in that specific way anymore, if you cut the cord, you're not 100% releasing that because it's not severed on both ends. And I was like,
oh, interesting.
I know. I was like, interesting. I don't know how I 100% feel about it, but I was like, oh, I've never heard that perspective before.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. And that is really interesting to think about. The other thing I like that you talked about in the last one was that human design. I'm gonna look way more into that because that is really interesting. It's kind of like what the girls say, astrology on steroids.
Yeah.
So it's like where Kortni was saying she's a manifester.
Okay.
Manifesting generator, yeah.
Manifesting generator.
Do you know which part?
I'm a projector.
Oh.
So I don't know much about it though. That's all. I went on to some site and I'm like, ooh, after I heard your podcast, I'm like, what am I?
It's wild. Like I have dug so deep into it, and
Can you explain it a bit?
Yeah, so I wasn't super big on astrology because I'm a Libra, and I was like, yeah, some of it relates to me, some of it doesn't. And human design is so you need your exact birth date and time that you were born. And then it like goes from the stars and everything how it is, but like there's so many different gateways and stuff through your human design. So the main ones are like projector, manifestor, generator, manifesting generator, and then I can't remember the other one. That one's like super, super rare. But as a manifesting generator, and I understand the projector side of things because my husband's a projector. We battle sometimes because I'll go 10 million miles a minute and he's like slow like a snail. And I'm like, come on, like, let's go. And so that's just like the smallest part of it. And then you have your strategy, you have your authority, you have like how you like, mine is gut intuition. So I'm based decisions on my gut, like what feels right in my sacral. And then I just started digging even more deeper into my chart, and you can see your environment. So like my environment is caves. So like it's not literal, but what it means is I like to be like surrounded. Like I like to be comfy. I work better in like my basement. That's why I was attracted to going into my basement, which is wild for my job, or your safe space. So like when I feel like I'm about to cry, I'll go hang out in my closet. Like I'm gonna release it here, but it's because it's close. So it's
You
crazy.
find that comfort in that, being in a sort of a confined, safe space.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that you chose that as your introduction to your podcast, probably not even realizing that at the time that you were creating this safe space for everybody else. So because that's your safe space, you've now created that and have adopted that for everybody else to come into as well. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, isn't that crazy too? How you're just like, these things, but then
All of a sudden, they are.
like you have all the tools.
Yeah. No, I like that. And I want to find out more because I don't know much more other than that. But I did
have to look into it too.
Yeah, it was.
Not familiar.
Yeah, I heard it on Kortni's podcast.
Thank you for listening. It's pretty new, I would say. Like it's become more, people are starting to look more into it. And it's cool too, because you can have your human design based on your business, because your business, like for instance, I haven't even looked at my human design chart for my podcast yet. But if you look into your podcast when it was created, then you can look into your human design. So what aligns with what you're sharing, and they do it for your business and for your kids.
Another project.
I know. It's so crazy, and it's free, right? Like you just the tool online and it will tell you most of your stuff.
Yeah. You just have to do the work to figure it all out.
Yeah. And know your birthday, including time, which
is the time really, really important? Because mine don't know.
Time is very important. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
Honestly, when you talk about it with people, most people don't know, or their parents don't even know. And I'm like, interesting.
It is. I think it's more like, I think back in the day that just wasn't really an important thing, right? And now I don't know who doesn't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it is really interesting. I like that. I didn't realize you could do about business, and well, I guess I did, but yeah.
Business and kids too, and grandkids, and see how because some kids are trying to communicate, especially kids are such an open gateway, right? Like they're so intuitive until we get not jaded, because that's a bad word, but as we go through things in life, you start to close off your intuition. So yeah, it's crazy. One of my friends did her chart for her kids, and she's like, it is wild. I can understand my kids so much better now, like why they react the way that they react, and why, when I'm asking them 10 questions, this is how they're communicating. Before, it would frustrate me as a parent, but that's their human design. That's how they were, designed to respond.
Well, and it's neat, like for you, because obviously you've done your husband's as well, so you can find those things. And then I think, and I could be wrong, you can correct me, but I think if you know what your husband is or your children are, you can actually figure out how to have a better family unit then.
Oh, totally. We were battling pretty good about certain, like working together. It was like, I'm like, just put the nail in the wall. I would do it. And he's like, no, I've got to measure it 5 times. But now that I've dove into his chart, I'm like, oh, okay, that's how he processes things. So now I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stand back for 15 minutes and let him do his thing, because that's how he was designed to operate. So it does help a lot of relationships, I find. It has for mine. I guess I can only speak for myself, but yeah. And he now understands why I do some of the things that I do. And he's like, that probably annoy him too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think actually, Sasha, I think when I looked into her, I'd have to look back, but I think she's also a manifestor generator, which actually does make a lot of sense why
With her,
we butt
yeah.
heads a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're definitely a soul family, but even though she's not my natural born grandchild, she was definitely meant to be a part of my life for a long time.
She
But
was.
we butt heads like a crazy people.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Then
it does. It's good.
Yeah.
Good.
because I'm definitely a plan things, and you know, I have a path.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to follow that. You're not,
Yeah.
or else it probably, like, I wonder what your not self is. Like, I wonder what do you know what yours is? No?
No.
Yeah. Mine's frustration. So like when I'm not acting or things aren't working out for myself, I get really frustrated, and there's like frustration, resentment, anger. There's a bunch of different things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, so are you going to adopt that into your practice? Is that one of your
You
things you're
should.
bringing in?
I am. Yeah, yes, I am. I'm very much, once I find something, I'm like, it's a good and bad. I like become obsessed with it, and then I need to know. Again, that's part of my human design. But I'm planning on integrating human design into my spa treatments. Coming up soon, actually, I have something exciting coming with that.
Nice.
So yeah, just because again, the more tools you have to understand yourself, the better you're going to be able to show up for others.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited to see all the stuff that you've got coming, right? And
Me too.
you're on Instagram,
Yes.
Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't really go on Facebook a
But-
ton. I actually deleted the app off my phone.
Okay. So it's Instagram, and then your
Yeah.
websites are the best place to get a hold of you.
Yeah. So Instagram, I have 3 accounts now. So my spa is at Touch of Serenity. And then my personal one's Kortni Chimko, where I share like more of the podcast stuff and my personal stuff. Tips, tricks, all of those kind of fun things. I get to be a little bit more creative on that side. And then for Kokoro and Jade, it's Kokoro and Jade, just plain. And then my websites, yeah. KokoroandJade.com and touchofserenityspa.com. Yeah.
And then your podcast, the Soul Haven podcast. And you put out weekly, right?
Yeah, every Monday it goes live at 5 a.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's been so fun having you on.
It's been very nice to meet you again.
Yes, it's been so nice to see you guys. I honestly am so honored that I got to speak on your guys' podcast. I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of manifested it too. So
well, thank you. That was very sweet. When you said that, I was like, really? That's cute.
Yes. I feel so honored, and I can't wait to have you guys come on Soul Haven.
Yes, we will
We're
definitely
excited.
do that. So everybody listen and follow. We're on pretty much all the platforms now to listen to. Going to be doing YouTube, and yeah, thank you again, Kortni, and maybe you'll come back again some other time and chat with us.
Yes,
love to have you, honestly, we would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody, a magical week.
Yes, you too. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.